The stone chamber was colder than death itself, and Kai's breath misted in the dim light filtering through barred windows. His wrists ached from the energy shackles, but he kept his spine straight, refusing to show weakness even in captivity. The Varellan had taken him during the skirmish at Epsilon Station, and now he waited to learn his fate. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor beyond. The massive door groaned open, revealing a figure that made Kai's blood run cold, and strangely, hot at the same time. General Thessa entered like a storm-given form. Her pale blue skin gleamed with an otherworldly luminescence, and her pink curls cascaded over broad shoulders. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her lithe frame wrapped in form-fitting armor that accentuated every dangerous curve. But it was her eyes, burning amber orbs that seemed to pierce straight through him, that held Kai transfixed. "So," she said, her voice a low purr that carried both threat and something else entirely, "you're the gift my soldiers brought me." She circled him slowly, predatory grace in every movement. A human scout. How disappointing. Kai met her gaze unflinchingly. "Sorry to underwhelm you, General. I'll try to be more entertaining next time I'm captured." Thessa stopped mid-stride, her amber eyes widening slightly. Most prisoners cowered before her, begged for mercy, or broke down entirely. This human, this small, defiant creature, was mocking her. In one fluid motion, she crossed the distance between them, slamming her hands against the stone wall on either side of his head. Her face was inches from his, fangs visible as her lips pulled back in what should have been a snarl. But something strange happened. His scent hit her, clean, warm, utterly foreign yet somehow familiar. Her breath caught, and for a moment, the ancient part of her mind that belonged to instinct rather than intellect stirred to life. "You should be afraid," she whispered, but her voice trembled. Kai's heart hammered against his ribs, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Maybe I should be," he replied quietly, "but I'm not." Their eyes locked, and in that moment, something shifted in the cold stone chamber, something that would change everything. Thessa pulled back as if burned, her chest rising and falling rapidly. The scent, that damned human scent, was doing things to her that she'd never experienced before. Her people had ancient instincts, primal urges that governed mating and bonding, but they were supposed to be triggered only by other Varellan. "This is impossible," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Kai watched her pace the chamber like a caged predator, her internal struggle written across her beautiful features. "What's impossible?" he asked, genuine curiosity replacing his earlier defiance. "You don't understand." Thessa's voice was strained. "My people, we have biological imperatives. Ancient drives that haven't been triggered in me for decades. And they're supposed to be impossible with." She gestured at him helplessly. "With humans? With anyone not of noble blood?" She stopped pacing, her amber eyes finding his again. "It's forbidden. Taboo. The council would execute me for even entertaining such thoughts." Kai's pulse quickened. "What kind of thoughts?" Instead of answering, Thessa moved closer again, but this time her approach was different, uncertain, almost vulnerable. She raised one hand to his face, her fingers trembling as they traced the line of his jaw. "Your skin is so warm," she murmured, wonder creeping into her voice. "So soft compared to ours." Her thumb brushed across his lower lip, and he couldn't suppress the sharp intake of breath. "Thessa," he said her name like a prayer, and she shuddered. "No one has spoken my name like that in years," she confessed. "Always, General, or, Your Grace. Never just Thessa." Her hand slid to the back of his neck, fingers tangling in his dark hair. The energy shackles binding his wrists flickered and died, whether by accident or design, neither knew. "I should kill you," she breathed, but her body pressed closer to his. "Yes," he agreed, his newly freed hands coming up to rest on her waist. "You should." Their faces were inches apart now, her breath warm against his lips. The chamber seemed to shrink around them, the cold stone walls forgotten as something ancient and powerful stirred between them, something that cared nothing for species, politics, or war. The night deepened around them, and with it, the walls they'd both built began to crumble. Thessa had dismissed her guards hours ago, claiming she needed privacy to interrogate her prisoner. Now, as moonlight filtered through the barred windows, she found herself sharing truths she'd never spoken aloud. "I've been fighting this war for 20 years, she said, her head resting against Kai's shoulder as they sat on the stone floor. 20 years of blood and death, and I can't even remember what we're fighting for anymore." Kai's fingers traced lazy patterns on her arm, marveling at how her pale blue skin seemed to glow in the moonlight. "Border disputes, resource rights, cultural differences," he listed. "The same things humans have always fought over. And what has it gotten us?" Her voice was bitter. "Generations of hatred. Children growing up knowing only war." "You could change that," he said softly. "You're a general. You have influence." Thessa lifted her head to look at him. "You think it's that simple? I think you're stronger than you know." His hand cupped her cheek, and she leaned into the touch. "The way you command your soldiers, the respect in their eyes, they'd follow you anywhere. Even into peace. Especially into peace." She kissed him then, soft and tentative at first, then with growing passion. Her fangs grazed his lower lip, and he groaned, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, becoming something desperate and hungry. "This is madness," she whispered against his mouth. "Then let's be mad together," he replied, his hands tangling in her pink curls. They made love with a tenderness that surprised them both, not the violent coupling of conqueror and conquered, but something gentle and profound. Her pale skin against his darker flesh created a beautiful contrast in the moonlight, and when she cried out his name, it was with wonder rather than dominance. Afterward, they lay entwined on her cloak, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "What happens when the sun rises?" she asked quietly. Kai's arms tightened around her. "I don't know. But I know I can't let this be just one night. The council will never accept it. My people will follow their general," he finished. "Especially if she shows them a better way." Thessa closed her eyes, feeling the weight of possibility and terror in equal measure. Part 4, Dawn's Revelation. The first rays of dawn painted the chamber in shades of gold and amber, and with the light came reality. Thessa stirred in Kai's arms, her warrior's instincts pulling her from sleep as footsteps echoed in the corridor beyond. "Someone's coming," she whispered, instantly alert. They dressed quickly, the intimacy of the night before seeming like a dream in the harsh morning light. Thessa had just secured her armor when the door burst open. General. Captain Vex, her second-in-command, strode into the chamber with 3 other officers. His dark eyes took in the scene, the disabled shackles, the rumpled cloak, the flush on his general's cheeks, and his expression darkened. "Captain," Thessa said, her voice steady despite the chaos in her chest. "Report. The High Council has sent word. They want the human executed publicly as an example." Vex's gaze never left Kai. "They're arriving within the hour to oversee it personally." Kai felt his blood turn to ice, but it was Thessa's sharp intake of breath that truly frightened him. He'd seen her face down armies without flinching, but the mention of the High Council had shaken her. "I see," she said carefully. "And if I refuse?" "General," Vex's voice dropped to a warning whisper, "you know what they'd do. Strip you of rank, exile you, or worse. Don't throw away everything you've built for a human." The other officers murmured agreement, but Thessa's amber eyes were fixed on Kai. In them, he saw the war raging, duty against desire, tradition against possibility. "Leave us," she commanded. "General. Leave us." The officers filed out reluctantly, Vex shooting one last concerned look over his shoulder. When they were alone, Thessa sank onto the stone bench, her head in her hands. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't watch them kill you." Kai knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "Then don't. Help me escape." You don't understand. If I help you, if they suspect what happened between us, then come with me. The words hung in the air between them, dangerous and impossible. Thessa looked up at him, tears gleaming in her eyes. You're asking me to abandon everything. My people, my position, my entire life. I'm asking you to choose love over war. Choose us over them. Outside, the sound of approaching vehicles grew louder. The High Council was coming, and with them, a decision that would change everything. The next few minutes unfolded like a carefully orchestrated dance. Thessa stood, her decision crystallizing in her amber eyes. She moved to her weapons rack, selecting a plasma rifle and a belt of charges. The ventilation shaft in the east wall leads to the vehicle bay, she said, her voice steady with purpose. Take the scout ship, it's fueled and ready. What about you? Kai asked, though he suspected he already knew. I'll buy you time. She turned to face him, magnificent in her resolve. But first, I need to do something. She activated her communication array, broadcasting on all frequencies, not just to her own forces, but to the human fleet as well. This is General Thessa of the Virellan Armed Forces, her voice rang out across the channel. I am calling for an immediate ceasefire. The war between our peoples has cost us too much. It's time for a new path. The response was immediate chaos, voices shouting from both sides, demanding explanations, calling her traitor. But Thessa continued, her voice growing stronger. I have seen what we could be together, what we could build instead of destroy. I am willing to stand as mediator, to forge a peace that honors both our peoples. But first, I need proof that hope still exists. She looked at Kai, and in that moment, he understood. This wasn't just about them, it was about everyone who had suffered in this endless war. Go, she said softly. Get to your people. Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that not all Virellan are monsters, just as not all humans are enemies. He kissed her then, fierce and desperate, pouring all his love and gratitude into that one moment. This isn't goodbye, he whispered against her lips. No, she agreed, her fingers tracing his face one last time. It's the beginning. 3 months later, the first joint Human-Virellan Peace Summit convened on the neutral moon of Sanctuary. General Thessa, now stripped of her military rank but wielding something far more powerful, the respect of soldiers from both sides who were tired of war, sat across from the human delegation. And there, serving as cultural liaison and translator, was Kai. Their eyes met across the negotiating table, and in that look was everything they'd found in a cold stone chamber: love, hope, and the promise of a future built on understanding rather than fear. The war was far from over, but for the first time in decades, there was light on the horizon. And it had all begun with a simple truth: sometimes the greatest victory comes not from conquest, but from surrender to something greater than ourselves.